So going into the company itself, as I was saying, I mean, the CEO and co-founder of the company, my name is Rubén Molina. I'm civil engineer by training. This project was part of my PhD. I didn't finish the PhD. I quit the PhD and I started the company back in 2017. And I created this company together with a group of people from the University of Granada. But the key person here was Doctora Francesca Molina. And although we share the surname, we are not related. I always need to clarify this. We are not married. We are not family. Nothing. It's just a really common surname in the south of Spain. It's like Johnson in Andalusia. And but it's key that Francesca Molina built this company with me because she was a visionary OBGYN that identified a key problem. They were doing exactly the same methods for diagnosing issues related with the birth timing for the last 30 years. They keep using, even when they have ChatGPT on the mobile, they keep using digital cervix exam, transvaginal ultrasound, and biomarkers for making a prognosis about the birth timing. And it doesn't make any sense because nothing has changed over the last 30 years. And now you might think that if nothing has changed over the last 30 years, the problem should not be that big. And yeah, as you can see in this slide, the problem is not big, it's huge. We are talking about using those outdated techniques for evaluating problems such preterm preaching labor, which is the leading hospitalization cause during pregnancy. We are talking about spontaneous preterm labor risk before 32 weeks of gestational age, which is the leading infant mortality cause around the world. And also about using those techniques for induction of labor process assessment, which is the the leading fetal distress source during the pregnancy. And those problems affect to more than 6 million of pregnant women every year. And talking only about Europe and USA, actually the problem is much, much, much bigger in low and medium countries. But talking about Europe and USA, annually 6 million of pregnant women suffer one of those three problems. And 3 million of them, more than half, 3 million of them, get incorrect diagnosis. And incorrect diagnosis in this context mean unnecessary hospitalizations, treatment with drugs like corticoids and antibiotics to healthy pregnant women, and also the missed opportunities to prevent spontaneous preterm labor or to reduce the prolonged induction of labor processes. And it is a huge opportunity there for us, but it's not only a market opportunity, but a clinical need that must be covered. And I have to say something there, and is that the solution was always there. They have been touching the cervix for the last millennium, I would say, but the problem is how they do it. And basically, you can see here in this screen, in this picture, in the left, can you see the orange circle? Yeah, it's pointing one organ called cervix, and it's the only barrier between the baby and the life. And it's demonstrated that in order to allow for childbirth, the tissue must get softer and shorter. And basically, this is what we do. We have developed this device from here that you can see is our own technology. It's called torsional waves technology. This is how we analyze the consistency of the tissue. We are specialists on analyzing how soft is the cervix tissue. It's a device that uses a concept that comes from the civil engineering field. That's why I'm related with the product, and that it's really reproducible between users. It can be replicable between different users. It's really easy to use. It's really fast. And it tells the doctor, not a color map like ultrasound. We are not ultrasound. We are a different technology. What we tell the doctor is this number that appears here. We provide the doctor with the cervical tissue softness. How soft is the tissue in terms of a specific number? So they don't need to think about anything. They just need to read the information. But yeah, everything was not that easy. And because the first clinical research we did back in 2019, I think it was at the University of Granada, we discovered that the clinical profile of the patient influenced the cervical tissue softness. And so we need to take this into account when we provide an assessment, because it's not the same. If two patients have the same, let's say, consistency modulus, the softness of the tissue, imagine that two of them have 5 kilopascals of consistency of the cervix. You cannot compare these 5 kilopascals of a Caucasian pregnant woman, 18 years old, first time pregnant, and the other one, 35 years old, 3 times pregnant before, Afro-American patient. So these 5 kilopascals mean something different in those two patients. And that's how our product was born. We have developed the system of the hardware, let's say, for cervix stiffness quantification, for measuring how soft is the cervical tissue. We take this parameter and introduce it into an artificial intelligence model, which combines the parameter, the mechanical parameter, with the clinical profile of the patient, and a software where the doctors can see the result of the assessment in terms of a score from 1 to 10 and a level of risk associated to the score. This is a typical result from our device. It's not the number, it's not kilopascals, it's an assessment. And after that, they made the decision about how to manage the patient. This is not our scope. But we also follow up the patient after the event, so they can track what happened with the patient. We provide the doctor like pop-up messages about, hey, you need to follow up the patient, what's going on, did you treat the patient with which drugs, because that will help us also to develop future indications. The device, as you could imagine, is patented twice. One of the patents is already granted in Europe, USA, Canada, and Australia. The other one is in PCT phase. And we have performed several studies comparing ourselves versus the gold standard. We have comparing ourselves against ultrasound for measuring the softness of any material. We are more accurate. We published this paper in Nature a few months ago. We compare ourselves versus the gold standard for threat temperature and labor assessment. And we published the results on the American Journal of Obstetrics and Gynecology, one of the most important peer-reviewed journals around the world. And also we demonstrated that we are more reliable than the current gold standard. And we did that in a clinical study in 10 sites around Spain. We recruited more than 400 patients, and we collected more than 200 variables per patient. And those are the results. You can see the results here. We improved the partosure and the cervicometry, the biomarkers, and the transvaginal ultrasound in terms of sensitivity and specificity and also accuracy. And building the AI models, we discovered also that cervical consistency was the variable most related with the birth timing, more than any other of the 200 variables that we collected. So apart from the clinical validation, we are already an ISO 13485 certified company. We completed the feasibility study comparing ourselves versus ultrasound. This is the first study that I mentioned you that we published in the American Journal of Obstetrics and Gynecology. The results that you saw in the previous slide is from the multicentric pilot study that we performed in 10 hospitals in Spain. We will have by the end of the year, beginning of 2025, the design, hardware, and software of the technology frozen. And now we are about to, let me go to the next slide, start with our research program. First, I have to say that the probe itself, the hardware that we have developed, has already captured the interest from the industry and also from key opinion leaders. They are asking for using it for research purposes. And that's why we're going to start commercializing the hardware as a class 1 measurement device in 2025. We want to do that for facilitating the physicians to perform their research using our technology without needing to go into the ethical committees, asked to supply them with every single time with our documentation, product documentation. So we need to standardize this. And in parallel, we will develop the diagnostic indications for the threat temperature and labor indication, which is going to be the first one. We are already preparing a pivotal clinical study that will start in the second part of 2025. This pivotal study will be performed in 20 sites in Spain, Netherlands, and Germany. through this study, we will submit the technical file for getting the CE mark as a Class 2B in Europe for this specific indication. And we expect to have it by 2027, the last part of 2027, starting commercializing the diagnostic indication. And in USA, we already negotiated with the FDA about getting the regulatory approval using the data from Europe, using the data from the pivotal study, plus performing a small bridge study in the USA. I have to say here that in USA, we are a Class 3 PMA device, not because of the technology. It's about the clinical indication. We are targeting a pregnant woman that is eventually could be having a preterm delivery at the moment. So we might, if we have a low predictive radius, we can be sending home a emergency situation that is not acceptable. So that's why we are Class 3 PMA. But check that we are already developing the second and third indication of the product. The second is preterm labor risk prognosis at week 20 of pregnancy, so we can avoid a spontaneous delivery before 32 weeks of gestational age. And for that, this is key. The study, the pilot study that is going to help us to build this second indication is going to be sponsored by one physician, which name is Prof. Kypros Nikolaides. If you check this, you're going to see the name because it's Cyprus name, Cyprian name. You will see it in the next slide. But if you check Prof. Kypros Nikolaides in Google, he basically is the Pope of OBGYNs. He was the one that did the first in utero intervention using laser back in 1992. He's the creator of the preeclampsia screening test. He's the creator of the Down syndrome screening test for the pregnancy. And now he wants to innovate also in preterm labor. And that's why he's going to sponsor a 7,000 patients clinical trial in the UK. And we are going to follow the same structure for deploying the technology in the other indications in the USA. So after that, we will need to do a bridge study. And induction of labor is the third indication. And we are already working on preparing the study in several clinical sites in Spain and Germany for performing this third indication. As you can see, we are developing 4 products using only one hardware, and that's what makes us really scalable in the future. So before going to the advisors and the key opinion leaders that we work with, I have to say that the team is led by Francesca Molina and myself, but it's not fair being here showing this slide without talking about the 15 to 18 people that is full-time working on the project. We have a big team for being a startup in the product development side, in the clinical side, in operations, in regulatory affairs and quality assurance, and also in business. So yeah, but we complement the talent that we have in-house with key advisors that are coming from the industry that have more than 20 years of experience, each one in this field. And also check the key opinion leaders that I were mentioning before. Prof. Nikolaides is the physician that is going to sponsor the study in the UK. But also we have one of the sites from the pivotal study of the first indication in Germany is Prof. Frank Leuven, and he is the director of the president of the International OBGYN Association, the FIG. And also we have emerging key opinion leaders like Mark Hill helping us with the product development. And also I wanted to mention here that we have a great group of investors. Not all of them are here, but we have, for example, Nara Capital, Sedeti Invierte, Mind the Gap, which is the family office from Botín Fundación, Clave Capital, Seed Capital Bizkaia, the European Commission invested at the company through an EAC acceleration program, and Wimmers Index for Steam and Namarel Ventures, among others. So the business model is not that simple, but it's really straightforward. Remember when I presented you the project plan, I mentioned that we're going to commercialize 4 products using one hardware, and the hardware is this one. This is the intravaginal probe. They need to acquire it once. They just buy buy the product once and they can use it for all the diagnostic indications, because the diagnostic indications are software applications. So they just need to buy once. It's a capital equipment. The cost is pretty limited if you compare us with the ultrasound manufacturers. And after that, when they want to use any specific diagnostic indication, they have to pay extra. So depending on the indication, threat and preterm labor, they need to pay. For example, we're going to commercialize the threat and preterm labor diagnostic indication as a license, annual license. So they pay one fee a year and that's it. For the second indication, preterm labor risk screening, we're going to commercialize it as a pay-per-use test. So every time they perform a diagnosis or prognosis using our technology, they will need to pay a fee. And the third indication, induction of labor, the same. So they buy the hardware and they can select which softwares they want to get into the packet. I have to say before moving forward to the financial projections that it's important to say that we already analyzed the market access and reimbursement scenarios in Europe. We are going to start selling the devices and the technology in Spain, Germany, and the Netherlands, and that's why we are going to do the study, the pivotal study in those specific markets, because we're going to collect the reimbursement variables at the clinical study. And I have to say also that the business strategy, the pricing strategy, reimbursement, commercialization, distribution strategies has been tailored through more than 200 interviews face-to-face performed by myself. That being said, as I mentioned before, we're going to start commercializing the diagnostic indications by 2027. By 2029, we will achieve, we will get the break-even point. Around 30 million of revenues projected by 2031. And as you can see at the very beginning, remember again, one product hardware plus the software. At the very beginning, the sales are really conditioned by the hardware revenues. You can see here, this graph represents the percentage of software revenues over the total revenues of the company. At the very beginning, everything is hardware-based because then we need to deploy the technology into the centers. But as we launch the diagnostic indications through the software, let's say that the percentage of total revenues shift, and we have almost 95% of revenues coming from software in 2031. That is basically which is translated into shifting from a hardware company to a software company. That will help us to improve the margins, to improve the EBITDA over sales, and also we have to scale by implementing other technologies in the future in our portfolio, software products that will target not only the indications that I mentioned during the presentation, but also other indications such endometriosis, IVF optimization, cervical cancer screening, and so on. Everything related with the changes in the cervical tissue stiffness, we can measure it and we can diagnose it. And moving forward, we raised 7 million euros until today. 3 million of them coming from grants, but 4 million of them coming from equity. And right now we are raising 6 million euros, which will help us to commercialize the first indication, being ready for submitting the data for the second indication, preterm labor risk screening, move forward with the third indication, and also advance, move forward with the MDR and FDA pathways. And also, we will be commercializing after completing the fundraising, the research use device in Europe and USA. We have opened a ticket of 2 million euros. We have the current shareholders of the company have committed around 1 million euros. As we got the EAC accelerator a couple of years ago, they will match the external investment. So basically, with 2 million euros, we will have 3 million euros from investors, and EAC will match these 3 million euros with a total amount of for the round of 6 million euros. Last slide is about the exit strategy. As you can see, the probe is really easy to be integrated into the ultrasound systems. And this is our target. We plan to exit by selling the company to one of those ultrasound manufacturers. We can solve for them a technical challenge that they have been suffering for the last 30 years. They don't have any elastography method. The cervix, the stiffness, tissue stiffness analysis is called elastography. They have been struggling with this for the last 30 years. It's not working. Nobody can do it, and we're the first one that can do it accurately, and that is reproducible between users. And we are already in the conversations with them. Some of them, like GE Healthcare, has had like 8 exits, M&A operations within the last 3 years, and the rest of the players here are also really active. So yeah, we plan to end the company by selling it or integrating our technology into the ultrasound manufacturers. I think that was all from the deck point of view. I'm gonna be now answering any questions you may have. So